Imagine a country born not from an ancient kingdom or a local rebellion, but from a deeply conflicted idea thousands of miles across an ocean. This is the story of Liberia, a nation whose origins lie in the heart of America's own struggle with race, slavery, and freedom. Our story begins in the early 19th century United States, a nation built on a paradox. It declared all men are created equal, yet enslaved millions. In this landscape, a growing population of free African Americans, especially in the North, posed a fundamental question to a society built on a racial hierarchy. Many white Americans, including both powerful slaveholders and some abolitionists, couldn't envision a future where black and white people lived together as equals. From this tension, a radical plan emerged. In 1816, a group of prominent white Americans politicians, clergymen, and slave owners formed the American Colonization Society, or AC2. Their mission was to resettle free African Americans in West Africa. For its supporters, this was a benevolent solution. It would give black Americans a chance to build their own free society. Away from the prejudice they faced in the US, they framed it as a noble experiment in self-determination. However, many black leaders saw it differently. They argued that colonization wasn't about creating a black utopia. It was about removing them from the United States. It was a way to avoid confronting the real issues of slavery and systemic racism at home. As one group of free black Philadelphians declared, "We have no wish to separate from our present homes for any purpose, whatever." The United States, they insisted, was their home, a land their ancestors had built with their labor. But the African American community was not a monolith. For others, facing constant discrimination, violence, and a future with no clear path to full citizenship, the idea of starting anew in Africa held a powerful allure. For those who were enslaved but hoped for freedom, the promise of land and self-governance was a dream worth pursuing. The choice was agonizing: stay and fight for rights in a hostile homeland, or leave for an ancestral continent they had never known, hoping to build a better future. In 1822, this idea became a reality. The first group of settlers, sponsored by the ACS, landed on the West African coast, in a region known as the Pepper Coast. They arrived in a land that was already home to vibrant, complex societies. People like the Crew, De Barca, Vei, and Grebo had lived there for centuries, with their own political systems, trade networks, and cultural traditions. The arrival of the newcomers, who would come to be known as American Liberians, marked the beginning of a profound and often difficult encounter between two worlds. These settlers brought with them what they knew: American culture, the English language, Protestant Christianity, and US-style political structures. But survival was a brutal struggle. The new environment was unforgiving. Tropical diseases like malaria swept through the early settlements, claiming countless lives. Tensions with the indigenous communities, who saw these newcomers as intruders on their land, often flared into violent conflict. The colony teetered on the brink of collapse multiple times, yet it survived, largely because it wasn't entirely on its own. The ACs provided crucial financial support, and the United States government offered a more subtle, but critical, helping hand. American naval ships patrolled the coast, offering protection to the fledgling settlement. U.S. missionaries and administrators played a key role in shaping its institutions. While Liberia was never formally an American colony, its connection to the U.S. was undeniable and essential for its existence. Then, in 1847, the settlers took a monumental step. Liberia declared its independence, becoming Africa's first republic. The new nation mirrored its American origins in almost every way. Its constitution was a near replica of the U.S. Constitution. Its flag, with its stripes and a single star, was a clear echo of the American flag. And its capital city was named Monrovia, in honor of U.S. President James Monroe, a supporter of the colonization project. On paper, this was a triumph, a nation founded by people of African descent, a symbol of black freedom and self-rule in a world dominated by European colonialism. But the reality on the ground was far more complicated. A new social hierarchy quickly emerged, one that ironically mirrored the very system the settlers had sought to escape. The Americo-Liberians, despite being a tiny minority of the total population, held almost all political power, owned the best land, and controlled the economy. For decades, the indigenous majority were treated as subjects, not citizens. They were excluded from voting and had little say in the governance of their own ancestral lands. A society founded by formerly oppressed people began to reproduce its own systems of exclusion. It was a tragic paradox at the heart of the new nation. The United States continued to play a unique, almost paternal role in Liberia's story. It wasn't a colonizer, but it wasn't just a distant ally either. This special relationship was cemented in the 20th century. In the 1920s, the American company Firestone secured a massive rubber concession, turning Liberia into a key supplier for the U.S. auto industry and deeply intertwining the two economies. During World War II and the Cold War, Liberia's strategic location made it a vital U.S. ally in Africa. American influence was everywhere, from its economy and military to its schools and churches. Back in the United States, Liberia remained a powerful and controversial symbol for African Americans. It was a source of both pride and pain. It represented the hope of black self-governance, a real-life Wakanda for its time. But it also served as a constant reminder of America's failure to live up to its own ideals of equality. Some African Americans continued to emigrate there, seeking opportunities they couldn't find at home. Others supported it from afar, funding schools and sending missionaries. Black intellectuals and activists debated its meaning. Was it a beacon of freedom or a tragic consequence of American racism? The deep-seated contradictions of Liberia's founding would cast a long shadow over its future. The tension between the Americo-Liberian elite and the indigenous majority simmered for over a century. This unresolved conflict was a major factor leading to the political instability that exploded in the 1980 military coup, which overthrew the Americo-Liberian-led government. This event, in turn, paved the way for two devastating civil wars that ravaged the country in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Today, Liberia is a nation still healing, still grappling with its complex legacy. Its story cannot be neatly categorized as purely African or purely American. It is both. It is the story of a transatlantic dream, born from the struggle for freedom in a world that was determined to deny it. It shows us how noble intentions can sometimes lead to unintended consequences, and how history is often shaped more by its contradictions than by its clear-cut ideals. Liberia stands as living proof of a shared, complicated history that binds Africa and America together across oceans and centuries. It's a story of hope, struggle, and the enduring search for a place to call home. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into the fascinating corners of our world history.